Mr. Dwight, you can start your presentation now.
Fantastic. I'm so pleased to be able to spend time with you and to be able to spend time as we map out your biggest dreams in 2017. It's a brand new year and a brand new opportunity for you and I to be able to reach our potential, to be able to maximize and to move forward. Of course, today the opportunity to be able to add value to your journey, and I'm so thankful that you and I get to spend this time together. The Gulf Business Network brings you some great training, some great material. So I want you to do this. I want you to get a legal pad or to get your tablet, your laptop, to be able to get something to take some notes, because I'm going to walk you through some of the principles I've found that will help you achieve more, accomplish more, to be able to have the single best year of your life. I'm going to build this around the idea of climbing your biggest dream. One of the things I learned a long time ago is that readers are leaders. Let me say that again. Readers are leaders. You need to be reading and stretching and growing to maximize your potential. And one of the books that I read recently, I'm holding it in my hand right now. I'm sitting here in my study in Orlando, Florida, and I'm holding the book that John Krakauer wrote called Into Thin Air. It's the classic book about disasters on Mount Everest. And one of the things I found in reading that book, if you're strategically planned, you can accomplish great things and then go on and accomplish even greater things. The problem is if you don't have a strategic plan, it can be disastrous. So as we go through our time, I want you to know you're taking notes, and I want you to make it personal to you. Be able to look at your specific situation in your finances, in your relationships, being able to look at your specific situation in your career or on your career path. Maybe there's some bigger dreams that you want to accomplish. Maybe you're like some of my friends, you want to write books. You want to share your story to impact other people. I don't know if your dream is to run a marathon or if your dream is to be able to travel. But I know this, you have to have strategic thinking. So let's move forward on our journey. I'm going to move back to the next slide and the first principle that I want to give you. Give courage to face big challenges. Now that's the formula. You have to have a big dream if you want big courage. You see, comfort does not challenge us to grow. If you're in a comfort zone, you're not going to accomplish greater things. You can't do that from a comfort zone. The challenge zone, and you get there by looking at the biggest thing you could possibly dream. Now, for many people, when you say Mount Everest, they think, well, it's a big place. But let me tell you some things about Mount Everest. The highest mountain in the world. It's shocking. Sea level. Airplanes fly at the level of Mount Everest. And of course, right on the boundary of Nepal and the Himalayas is this huge mountain. It's the biggest, and that's what makes it so remarkable, because so many people, they talk about it, but they don't realize this huge mountain has only had a few thousand people try. It was discovered back in the 1800s. Now, if you're trying to climb Mount Everest, there are 3 steps before you get to the summit, before you get to the top. They call it the first step, the second step, the third step, and then the summit. I'm going to share with you today the same process for your Everest-sized dream. But I want you to know the principle. The bigger the dream, the bigger the challenge, the more it's going to require something inside of you, some greatness inside of you, and I'm going to help you find it. But I can't get you there as a coach. I can't get you there as a communicator if you don't know what the big dream is. So do you have your big dream? Is it in your relationships, in your career, in your finances? Is your big dream about a physical goal to push yourself and challenge yourself in some way? I know this. If you have big dreams, now it's the big challenges that will come up. Now, we all have dreams of climbing something big in our life. Everybody has some big dream. Probably the most famous statement about climbing Mount Everest came from a man named George Mallory. And you see, I've pulled up the quote for you from the New York Times, the actual newspaper clipping. And they asked George Mallory, "Why are you trying to climb Mount Everest?" And Mallory said, "Because it's there. Because it's there." Let me give you the full quote from the interview in the New York Times. This is George Mallory from his autobiography. Mallory said, "People ask, what is the use of climbing Mount Everest? And my answer must at once be, it's of no use. Of any gain by climbing Everest, so we may learn a little bit about the behavior of the human body at high altitudes, or possibly medical men may turn our observations to some account for the purposes of aviation, but otherwise nothing will come out of it. You don't or gemstones or coal or iron when you climb Everest." He said, "If you cannot understand there's something inside of a man which responds to the challenge of this mountain. There's something that comes out of us when we go up to meet it. And that struggle is the struggle of life itself, and it is forever upward. If you don't understand that, then you won't go. What we get from this adventure is sheer joy. And joy is, after all, the end of life. We do not live to eat or make money. We eat and make money to be able to live. That is what life is for, and that is why we climb, because it is there and it brings out the best in our lives. Do you have a dream like that? Do you have a challenge like that? Do you have something in your life that's so big, it stretches you, it pushes you, it makes you better, it draws the best out of you? I hope you do. If you don't, I sure want you to. Because I think that we all have dreams of something bigger. Baxter Kruger, the author, said there's far more going on in the average person's life than anybody would dare to dream. And for many people, there's a lot of things going on. And so if we were sitting here in my study in Orlando, I would say, what's your dream? What do you want to accomplish? Not just in the new year, but what do you want to accomplish with your life? What do you want to do in your lifetime? What do you want to accomplish? And if I were coaching you, we'd sit down and I would take a legal pad and I would look through the 12 different key areas of life: physical, educational, career, finances, spiritual. I would take a look at your core beliefs, your values. I'd look at your housing situation. I'd look at what you're doing in terms of your long-term investing and finances. I'd look at legacy and your extended relationships. I'd look at the different areas of life. In fact, I even wrote a book about that. It's called Destination Success, and it's a coaching book to look at the key areas of your life and then to be able to help you in those key areas to map out a plan. I would say, what's your dream? And then once we map that out, I'd smile and I'd look at you and I'd say, what's your Everest Sized Dream? What's the biggest dream you can think of? For some people, it's to go back and finish their education or to get a doctorate. For other people, it's to say, I want my children to go to the best schools in the world. For other people, it would be to say, I want to be able to visit the 7 natural wonders of the world, and I want to share that experience with my children, with my grandchildren. You see, if I ask you about your Everest-sized dream, it's one thing to climb a mountain, but Mount Everest is 8,850 meters. It's the biggest in the world. What's your biggest dream? Because if it's about finishing your education or career success, or your kids making good decisions, or generating wealth, or having excellent health, or a happy marriage, being able to have a fulfilling career, maybe it's a beautiful home, maybe it's to make a major contribution inside of your industry. Maybe you want to give money to charity. You want to be a charitable part of the world that's struggling. I know this. If I can help you find that Everest-sized dream, you'll be able to go forward and accomplish great things. But I'll also give you a warning. The warning comes from over 150 years ago. The philosopher Henry David Thoreau said, most men lead lives of quiet desperation, and they go to the grave with their songs still in them. Isn't that sad? They go to their grave with their songs still in them. My friend Florence Littauer tells the story of her dad, who was very musical. He played the piano and was very gifted. but he never did anything with it during the Great Depression in the United States. And Florence asked her dad, a little silver box, and he had hidden it in the back of the piano. It was just a little gift-sized box about the size of a set of Post-it notes. And she said, Dad, what's this little silver box? And in it, he had folded up a letter that he had received to come and to play for a big event, and he said, I was always too afraid to try. And Florence even wrote a book about silver boxes, and she said, so many people inside of them. I hope that's not you. I hope that you don't die with your dream inside. I hope that maybe because of our time today and the things that you're writing down and because of the time that you're spending being equipped through the training center, that you will not die with your dreams inside. I hope that you're even sharing your dreams and being able to share those with the people that you care about. Because the more I can get you talking about it, the more I can get you excited about it, the more I can get you jazzed and talking about bigger dreams, the more you're going to go and accomplish them. But you have to have strategic thinking. If you don't, I want you to know it can absolutely lead to disaster. And when I say disaster, of course, I'm talking about the person most people forget about, the individual who's probably the greatest disaster when you think about Mount Everest, and it's Maurice Wilson. As you can see where it says, dreamers without strategic thinking create disaster. And Maurice Wilson was that guy. In fact, let me tell you a little bit about Maurice Wilson. You'll see on the screen the airplane. He called it the Everest. The interesting thing is he didn't know how to fly a plane. Maurice Wilson, and this is, I'm pulling this from Wikipedia, just a couple of bullet points. Wikipedia describes him as an eccentric Englishman who tried to climb Everest after flying to the mountain despite knowing nothing about mountaineering or flying an airplane. Wilson decided to climb Everest while recuperating from an illness and to crash the plane on the mountain's upper slopes and then simply climb to the summit. He learned to fly in an afternoon a gypsy moth plane, the Everest, which you see on the screen. He spent 5 weeks hiking around Great Britain for practice, not in high altitude, just hiking in the countryside. Then he flew to India. He spent the winter there planning his expedition with no climbing equipment and no high altitude equipment. He approached up on the glacier. He got lost. On May 22, 1934, he tried to climb to the North Pole, but failed when he hit the ice wall. On May 31, in his last diary entry, he wrote, "Off again, it's a gorgeous day." His body was found a year later, surrounded by his equipment. Now, here's the interesting thing about Maurice Wilson. He had an idea. I'm going to go and climb the biggest mountain in the world. Here's the problem. He didn't have a plan. He didn't have any strategic thinking. He didn't have anything other than an idea. And it led to disaster. You know, I hope that's not you. I hope that you're not the person who has a big idea, huge idea. You tell everybody, I'm going to go and accomplish something fantastic. But without a strategic plan, without a support system, without the resources around, disaster. Dreamers without strategic thinking create disaster. It's one of the key points I want you to understand. I want you to dream. I want you to have bigger dreams, bigger ideas, but I also know this. If you don't have strategic thinking, you're setting yourself up to fail. George Mallory, who died on Mount Everest in 1924, they found his body in 1999. Mallory said, "We will want for climbers and not half-dazed ones. Everest is my holy grail." Remember, he had been a school teacher. He said, if I can secure my place in history, I will secure my future. It's not a bad thing to give up the settled ease and comfort of life. He at least had a plan. He accomplished part of that plan, and he's remembered as a person who may have been the first one to get to the top of Everest. We don't know. They know that he was found very high up on the mountain, but he at least had some structure. He had a plan, but he didn't finish because he didn't have enough resources. So your big dream, your big plan, I want to walk you through the process because there's There's a saying that we have here in the United States. It's a children's book. You've probably heard it. And it's about a little train, a little engine that could. And the little engine that could keeps saying as he's going up the mountain, I think I can, I think I can, I think I can. But I want you to know that's only half the process. You see, I think I can sounds good, but it's not just thinking, it's doing. It's not just thinking and talking, it's acting. And it's acting on a strategic plan. I want you to be able to map out a strategic plan so that it goes from thinking, and thinking's good. It's half the process. I think I can, I think I can, I think I can. But I want you to be able to get back. Right now, Elon Musk and some of the different individuals who have great ideas for space travel are talking about sending a man to Mars. The problem is, at this point in time, as we're recording this, they don't have a way to get you back. You know, they know that they can get you to Mars. They just don't know how to get you back. Well, that's only half the process. I mean, it would be fantastic to go to Mars, but, you know, I'd kind of like to come back. It'd be fantastic to go to the moon, but, you know, I want to be able to come back, right? And so when I look at I think I can, I think I can, I think I can, I love the enthusiasm if that's you. But I also want you to be able to move from thinking and talking to doing and acting. Because when you're able to do that, you'll accomplish more. One of the jokes that mountaineers use, in fact, I found this in my research for our training time today, they said that mountaineers need three things. Number one, a high pain threshold. Makes sense. Number two, a bad memory. And number three, I forgot the third. Because for individuals who are climbing, it's so bitter cold. We're talking sometimes 40, 50 degrees below zero. You know, winds that are coming at you at 70 miles an hour, hurricane, typhoon strength winds. And you're trying to hang on. You can only climb from the very end of April through the month of June. It's the only about 5 weeks of period of time that the weather is even survivable for humans. So you need not just thinking, I think I can do it. You need the action plan to be able to move forward to help you do that. I want you to change from just a big idea to a big application, from thinking to application. You'll see in the photo on the slide, wrong thinking creates disappointment in reaching your big Everest-sized dream. Because when you're in extreme conditions, you're colder than you have ever been. Your brain might give you some negative self-talk. You can't do this. You'll never make it. You don't need to ask for help. For some people, they say, you know, there's something wrong about me. I'm not important. Nobody cares about me. I'm not good. I'm not lovable. I'm totally alone. I'm not worthy. And maybe the most dangerous one is the last one you see on the slide. Some people believe that it's wrong to ask for help. And I want you to know, you cannot accomplish anything great. You cannot climb your Everest-sized dream. You spend time. That's why you spend time at training events just like this. That's why you're stretching, learning, growing. That's why you're plugging into the resources that you need, the step-by-step, because by asking for help, I need to stretch, grow. I need new ideas. I need somebody to challenge my thinking. Max Kruger said, what we don't know that we don't know, that's what destroys us. And for many people, that's the issue. It's what they don't know. So when I think about an Everest-sized dream in your life, maybe it's to have a nicer home. Maybe it's to be able to equip your children with better education. Maybe your Everest-sized dream is to have the resources and the finances to travel. I know there will be obstacles. I know there will be challenges, and I know there will be setbacks. But I also know you can move beyond the disappointments if you can change how you look at it. Wrong thinking creates disappointment because wrong thinking leads to wrong action. Did you get that? Write it down. Wrong thinking leads to wrong action. And if I can get you to change your thinking, I can do this, but I need a plan. Because wrong thinking and have a healthy body. That's not true. You can't eat anything you want, smoke anything you want, and have a healthy body. it will affect your health. Wrong thinking leads to wrong actions. But if I can change and challenge your thinking, you can accomplish more than your family. If nobody in your family's ever accomplished something, you can go do that. But you do need to change the thinking so that you can change the action to be able to move forward, move in that direction. We can't climb a Mount Everest-sized dream alone. Can't be done. It can't be done. In the book Dark Summit, Nick Heel said that on Everest, morality stops at 8,000 meters. And for some people, in fact, I've got a listing here of hundreds of people who have died trying to climb Mount Everest. From the book Dark Summit, Nick writes, on May 15, 2006, a young British climber named David Sharp lay dying near the top of Mount Everest. 40 other climbers walked past him on their way to the summit. A week later, Lincoln Hall, a seasoned Australian climber, was left for dead near the very same spot. Hall's death was reported around the world because he was such a famous mountain climber, but the next day he was found alive after spending a night on the upper mountain with no food and no shelter. He was found by some Sherpas who said, you can't climb an Everest-sized dream by yourself. That's why you're plugged in to the training today, because I know you need more tools, you need more resources, and you need other people who say you can do this. And maybe one of the biggest ones, you're not alone. I wish that I could see you in person and say, you're not alone. There are hundreds of people who believe and equip and add value, all of the trainers that are part of this network. Everyone is dedicated to one thing. You're not alone. We want to see you accomplish your dreams. We want to see you be more successful, because you can't accomplish it alone. Now, you can get in trouble. You can end up in a disastrous situation alone. That's one of the sad things with David Sharp. He wanted to do it alone. He was a school teacher from England, and if you go online and you Google his name, you'll see where he sat down very near the top. There's a small ice cave near the top of Mount Everest, and he sat down, and he didn't have Sherpas. He didn't have other resources. He was climbing alone. He wanted to do it by himself, and tragically what happened is that it took his life. Despite all of the other things and the help that he could have asked for, he didn't reach out. I don't know about you. I don't know if you have a support system. If you don't, I hope you'll get one. I hope you'll get a mentor. You know, I'm blessed to have some wonderful mentors in my life, men who challenge me. Elmer Towns, who's an author, John Maxwell, the leadership writer, Steve Brown, who's a broadcaster, and Pat Williams, the co-founder of the Orlando Magic NBA basketball team. These are authors and speakers, and over the last 35 years have challenged my thinking, and I think that's why I'm so eager to challenge your thinking. Who do you have that's a little bit further on the path as a seasoned guide? Who's your mentor? If you don't have one, I want you to go get one. And then the other part of it, because you don't climb an Everest-sized dream alone, who do you have that you're equipping? Who are you adding value to? Who are you helping? Who are you speaking life into? Who are you challenging? You can do this. Come on, let me show you how. When I start to think about Everest-sized dreams, big dreams for your family, big dreams for your finances, big dreams for your health, big dreams for your career, who are you taking with you? John Maxwell, the leadership writer, who's one of my mentors, as I mentioned, John has a saying that if you think you're a leader, and you go out and you see that nobody's following you, you're just taking a walk. And for many people, they're out by themselves. You cannot accomplish your biggest dream by yourself. You can't climb a Mount Everest-sized dream alone. You can create disaster and disappointment by yourself. And so if you don't have enough supports, I want you to think about who in your family, who among your friends, who among your coworkers, who can you reach out to? Who can you reach out to that would be able to say, let's do this together? Maybe it's in your company. You want to accomplish bigger things. You want to expand your market share in 2017. You want to be able to move forward to be the best that you can be, and you do that with your team. It's one of the most fantastic things in the world to be able to say, we did this together. We won the championship. We did it together. But to be able to move forward, I want you to know, reaching the top of your Everest requires strategic thinking. And you see on the slide where it says in an environment with a very small margin of error. Now, the higher you go up Everest, remember it's 8,800 meters, actually 8,850 meters. And when you look at that, an Everest size, huge, biggest mountain, the higher you go, the smaller the margin of error. The higher you go toward your big dream, maybe in your finances, maybe in your health, maybe in your relationships, the margin of error shrinks. In other words, the further you go, the higher you climb. If you make a mistake, it's more costly. That's why you don't go to Everest and then just, fly into Nepal, come through Kathmandu, and then all of a sudden, hey, I'm just going to climb up to the top of Everest. You do that, that's disastrous. No, you actually fly in to Kathmandu, you travel through that part of the world, and you get up to base camp and you stay there for 4 to 6 weeks just so your lungs can get used to the high altitude. The base camp is a place that you'll spend, and it's a huge base camp. Sometimes there'll be hundreds and hundreds of climbers there. They're acclimating to the high altitude. Because once you start to climb, you can't really go back unless there's some type of disaster. You start to climb, you've been preparing for many people. They've been preparing for years. They've got the tools, they've got the equipment, they've got the resources, they've got the support team around them, because the higher you climb, the smaller the margin of error, and that's okay. But what it means is we have to train every day. We have to train in some way every day. At Everest, they're preparing, they're equipping. A friend of mine, Pat Williams, the co-founder of The Magic, wanted to climb, so he went to Mount Rainier in Washington State in the United States on the Pacific Coast, the highest point in North America. And dreams, and it's something called character cracks. And after crack is somebody's position, and they've moved forward, and they really are moving forward, but there's some things in their character that they've not worked on. Maybe they have a terrible temper. We all get frustrated and upset, but in today's global issue, you can't blow up on someone, a customer, a vendor, and because of YouTube and Twitter, it may go viral. You have to have incredible control and incredible ability to be able to manage your moods and emotions. And the higher you climb, the more we're these small margins of error. But that's okay. That's something that you can focus on. It's something you can change. Some people, when I talk about character cracks, for themselves, instead of thinking about their team, thinking about what they can get out of it instead of what can the customer get out of it? What can these vendors get out of it? I wrote the book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Dr. Covey said that we need to have a business environment where it's vendor wins, the customer wins, your business partners win, and we need some trusted people to climb with us. Now, when you see on the screen, we don't need somebody to help us climb. We also need a trusted guide. The trusted climbed to the top of it. First was Tenzing Norgay. Sir Edmund Hillary, the first to be able to do it. They were the first to be able to accomplish it, but they weren't the last. Hundreds of people have made it to the top of Mount Everest because they get there first. They gave other people the courage Mark Jenkins, who's a reporter for the National Geographic, said, "I treasure the memory of climbing with my friends on the mountain. I committed my life to my friends. They committed their lives to me. We climb on together." Who's your trusted guide? Who's the person that's helping you move forward? Because if you have a trusted guide, you have people who share your dream, people who share your vision, then you are able to move forward to the next step. Everest Sized Dreams require both big thinking and strategic thinking. Now let me explain. Big thinking and strategic thinking. You'll see on your screen the amount of equipment that's involved to be able to get to the top of Mount Everest is amazing. I mean, you need equipment for the snow, for the cold. You need to be able to just clamp into the ice. You need big thinking, big dream, but you need strategic thinking. You need to know each of the different small things that are required to get you to the top safely and then to get you back down safely. When I think about this, let me share with you from Edmund Hillary, the first man to reach the top, the New Zealander. He said, "I've been seriously afraid at times, but I use my fear as a stimulating factor rather than allowing it to paralyze me. My abilities have not been outstanding, but I've had sufficient strength and determination to meet my challenges, and I've usually managed to succeed with them." Now, let me show you the difference. You see, big thinking sees the problem. You'll see the dog obstacles. To be able to move in that direction, to be able to gain the sense of development. You see the two? To be able to move forward. Big thinking and strategic thinking. I want you to be able to climb to the happen. And everybody goes through difficult times. In fact, in the next dream, if you take a look at mental toughness, the screen, you'll see that Yuichiro Miura, at age 80, the oldest person to summit Mount Everest, and you'll see a photograph right there on the screen. The amazing thing is he had tried 2 times before. You'll have setbacks, but if you have mental toughness, that's what will help you to climb forward to reach the next dream. Let me tell you how to build mental toughness. You build some daily routines. Remember, readers are leaders and leaders are readers. Some daily routines with your sleep. That's when your body will replenish serotonin. If you get deep NREM sleep, that deep, meaningful sleep, it helps you to be able to think clearly. A healthy diet, audiobooks, podcasts, blogs, obviously exercise, attending training events, watching TED Talks, going to equipping times like the one we're part of right now. I want you to be around people and peers that make you stronger, people that challenge your thinking. You develop mental toughness by learning from the stories of other people. Edmund Hillary said, "It's not the mountain we conquer ourselves." One of the great stories that I love to tell is Andy Andrews. His parents died when he was 19 years old. They did not have insurance. An only child ended up literally living under a bridge in Orange Beach, Alabama, right on the shores of the Gulf of Mexico. And a man noticed him, old man named Jones. And he noticed Andy as a 19-year-old. Andy was kind of tall, and he said, "What are you living under this bridge for?" He said, "Well, my parents died, and I don't have any resources." And Jones got him a library card, got him a job, and said, "Andy, if you read The stories of other people will give you the courage to move forward. And today, Andy Andrews is a New York Times best-selling author. He wrote a book called The Traveler's Gift. He wrote a book called The Noticer. But it all started because an old man said, you need to read the stories of other people. That's what will give you courage. Because if you don't have courage, you can get courage from other people's story. And when I get courage from other people's stories, it allows me to survive crushing disappointments. It helps me to see that being fully alive is more than achieving what you originally wanted. When you're climbing towards your big goal, you're climbing towards your Everest Sized dream. It brings the best out of you. The formula is to find strength, to be able to keep climbing, to be able to learn. So if you don't reach the top, but you accomplish more than other people in your family, maybe that your original dream, but you've accomplished more than other people in your family. Maybe for some people, they're able to stabilize some things in their life more than they ever dreamed possible. But I want you to know, you can keep living. You can go back. You can accomplish more. Edmund Hillary said, people do not decide to become extraordinary. They decide to accomplish extraordinary things. Let me give you a formula. I talked about there are 3 steps till you get to the summit. Let me share some with you. I call it the rope formula. The rope formula is a strategic thinking process to be able to move toward your Everest-sized dreams. The R is to be realistic and responsible. Henry David Thoreau said, you must live in the present, launch yourself on every wave, find your eternity in each moment. Fools stand on their island of opportunities and look toward another land. There's no other land. There's no other life but this one. Be realistic. Be responsible. Plug in to be able to look at the life that you have and the place where you live to say, what's the best I can do right now? Can you grow and stretch and change next year? Sure. But I need you to make the best. Some people live in what's called destination disease, and they think, well, I'll be happy, when I'm 50 years old, or I'll be happy when I finally, get away from this job or get away from these people. No, happiness is an inside job. It's not what's happening to you. It's what's happening inside of you. That's what counts. The O in this rope formula, you need ropes to get to the top of Everest. You need ropes to get to the top of your Everest-sized dream. The O is options. Napoleon Hill, the writer, said opportunity often comes disguised in the form of misfortune or temporary defeat. Something I taught our children, who both are college students now, is that you always have options. If you hit a hard time, and you will, you always have options. The P in the formula is to be passionate. To be passionate. Nelson Mandela said, after climbing a great hill, one only finds there are many more hills to climb. Simon Sinek is an author. He wrote a book called Start With Why. It's one of the most popular TED Talks on the web. And one of the things that Simon talks about is you need to know, your core. What's your why? What gets you up? What gets you going? What keeps you moving forward? Because when you know the why, you're able to find the passion inside, and that passion is what will push you to the next level of success. What are you passionate about? What's important to you? Because if you're climbing the biggest dream, the biggest thing you could imagine, I need you to have passion, because when life knocks you down, that's what's going to give you the energy to get back up. The E in the rope formula is empowered. Empowered. To feel empowered is to have a sense of, I can do this. I can do this. And I want you to know, you can accomplish more than you ever thought possible. You can accomplish more than you ever could dream. You can accomplish more. Jimmy Wales had an idea in 1995. He said, wouldn't it be great if there was an online encyclopedia that would help people? And it would be absolutely free. The interesting thing is Microsoft, the very same year, said, wouldn't it be great if we started an online encyclopedia and we charged people a monthly subscription? And that encyclopedia was called Encarta. They launched it in 1996 as Jimmy Wales started Wikipedia. He started an online encyclopedia that people could get ideas and basic information. And in fact, Encarta I missed a basic thing. If you empower people with knowledge, empower people with information, an amazing thing happens. They start to feel like, well, if you can do that, I can do that. When Roger Bannister broke the 4-minute mile, people said, well, if he can do that, I can do that. Empowered, when you learn from the stories of other people, you are able to move forward and accomplish more than you ever imagined. But see, you'll inspire other people. You'll empower them. Mark Jenkins, the National Geographic reporter who's climbed Everest many times, said such moments are the reasons that climbers keep coming back to Everest. It's not simply about respect for the mountain, and it's enjoying the journey. A couple more principles, and then we'll take some questions, because I want you to understand, to move forward toward your Everest-sized dream is how you will have the best year of your life. But there is a risk, and I need you to know about it. When you're at the top of the mountain, the only other direction you can go is down. In fact, most of the accidents that have occurred on Mount Everest have not occurred in the climb. They've occurred as somebody's trying to climb back down. Ed Vistris is a climber who's been to Everest 3 times and made the summit. He said getting to the top is optional. Getting back down is mandatory. So if you accomplish something great, your Everest-sized dream, that's fantastic. Maybe how can I sustain this next? You know, dreams are also come at a price. And to be able to think, how can I manage this successfully? Part of that is to make some big decisions. Big to be able. Edmund Hillary, the New Zealander, the first that we know of to get to the top of Mount Everest, said, as a youngster, I was a great dreamer, reading many books of adventure and walking lonely miles with my head in the clouds. He always wanted to do something great, and Sir Edmund Hillary was remembered as the guy who got to the top of Everest first. He had big dreams, but he made a bunch of big decisions along the way, and I think that's the case for you and me. Maybe you've got a big dream for 2017. I hope you do. I hope you do. But I want you to know that big dream needs some big decisions, some daily routines, some daily patterns, being realistic, looking at your options, being able to say, you know what, I am passionate about accomplishing more in the new year. Do this with the help of my friends. Once you make those big decisions, how far can your dream take you? And the answer is, your dream can take you as far as your thinking will take you. There's a picture on the screen of Felix Baumgartner, 24 miles above the earth, the highest free fall parachute jump in the world, 24 miles above the earth. I live in Orlando, Florida, and Joe Kittinger, up until Felix's jump, sponsored by Red Bull, Joe Kittinger right here in Orlando had the highest free fall above the sands of New Mexico. And being able, when you're at 250 miles an hour, what are you thinking? Joe Kittinger, I've heard talk about it. And he said, what I was thinking of, I was thinking about my training. I was thinking about the amazing view. And he said, I was thinking about my family. Because I knew if I trusted my training, if I followed the basic steps, I knew that I'd be able not only to accomplish something big, I'd be able to live and to tell and to train other people. And when Felix was jumping out of that plane, you see the picture right there from Red Bull, Joe Kittinger, the other man who held the highest altitude record for a free fall jump until Felix jumped, Joe Kittinger was on the radio talking to Felix the whole way down. It had been 50 years, but the older jumper was now able to say to the younger jumper, you can do this. I'm with you every step of the way. Isn't the view amazing? Because when you have a big dream and you can share it with some other people, everybody wins. Everybody wins. I told you I have a mentor. His name is John Maxwell. There's a picture on the screen of John and I in 1997. We were at one of the largest events, speaking events, 1.2 million people. This was in Washington, D.C. You can kind of see the stage in the background. And it was, 1.2 million people. It was crowded. And something I learned from my friend that day, John said, walk slowly through the crowd. John was there to equip and to challenge our thinking, to make us better. But there was a special entryway for VIPs, and John said, well, I'm not going to walk through that. And I said, well, we need to get you on stage. And John said, I walked through the crowd. And when he walked through the crowd, literally dozens of different guys came up. They were talking. People were asking him questions. And what I learned that day was, when you've accomplished something great, when you've done it, your dream will inspire other people. And so you walk slowly through the crowd to be able to share some ideas. And that's why we always take time. That's why we always take time to be able to answer your questions, to be able to say, how can I challenge you? How can I walk this journey with you? How can the training center add greater value? Now, if you want to stay connected on social, it's pretty easy to do on Twitter at Dwight Bain, Facebook.com/Dwight Bain, LinkedIn.com/n/Dwight Bain. It's just my name, YouTube.com/Dwight Bain. You can stay connected on social. I post every day quotes to inspire, to motivate, to challenge your thinking. But when I talk about walking slowly through the crowd, the Gulf Business Network is about equipping you and about adding greater value. And that's why we always allow time for specific questions to help you be challenged in your thinking, to accomplish more, to do more, to be able to reach your Mount Everest sized dreams and to be able to move forward. The entertainer, he said, when you're climbing the ladder of life, you go rung by rung, one step at a time. You don't look too far up. You set your goals high, but you take the next step. Always take the next step. I've spent some time with Donny Osmond, and I can tell you it's fantastic because he's always accomplishing more. Every time I see him, he's always accomplishing more. And I want to challenge you so you can accomplish more as well. Now, we'll take time for questions. There's a chat box on your screen, or the audio, if it's unlocked, you're able to ask your questions directly. So right now I'm going to give control of the conversation back to our moderator so that we can take some questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dwight Bain, for such an intriguing presentation. Folks, we are now open for the question-answer session. If you have any questions, you can either put in the question box given in the end of the webinar console, or you could equally raise your hand by clicking on the hand icon available on the webinar console. So let me go straight to the question box. Here we have a question from Miss Fatima. So we need an exit strategy or backup plan for any dream we have.
To be able to map things out. I like things on paper. I like to plan things, kind of a plan A, plan B, plan C. And when I say paper, I actually use a legal pad and a pen. I have it right here in front of me in my study in Orlando. Maybe you use a tablet or you keep a note section on your phone. But to be able to have a plan is literally to have a map. The book I wrote, Destination Success, talks about how to map out in the 10 key areas of life to create a roadmap, how to create a logical step-by-step process, because if your goal is financial wealth, there are a series of steps you follow. And it's not something that you do one day. No, the difference is you map out your plan every day. There are certain things that you do every day if you're accomplishing financial goals. However, if you're working on physical goals, then there are certain things you do every day. I wear a little device on my wrist called a Fitbit, and it just measures my steps and has some other information, heart rate and such. And it's helped me to be able to monitor my heart healthy. So we want to plan, and then the backup plan really is just to be able to go back and look at the plan. A plan is something that I can measure, I can monitor. Some people say it's a metric. You can scale it because I can measure. If I'm measuring money, or if I'm measuring physical fitness and physical ability, if I'm measuring career development, if I'm measuring education, in this semester, here's what I'm taking. Your plan, you map it out. And I think that with a plan, just like a map, sometimes you're changing one category. Sometimes you're adding a little of this. Sometimes you're saying, I'll make a turn here. But I want you to know you keep the end goal, the Everest Sized Dream in sight. That's what will help you, because I'm always looking at the big dream, the big goal, and then I'm mapping out my steps toward that. Your plan may change. That's okay. It's paper and ink, or it's something that you've listed on your phone. You have the power to change the plan. The important thing is to keep the big dream, the Everest-sized dream, in view, and every single day, this is the secret. Here it is. Don't miss it. The secret is every single day doing something that moves you closer toward your Everest-sized dream. The secret to success, the things you do every day, the habits you have every day. That's what will help you accomplish your Everest-sized dreams.
For such a great answer, we have another one. What are the basic principles of strategic thinking, and explore specific techniques that can make us a more effective idea producer?
You know, strategic thinking is to see the big picture and then to implement the steps to get to the big picture. For many people, I think they're afraid to be able to have bigger dreams. Maybe some people are afraid things in their job. They're afraid to try sometimes. It doesn't have to be that way. And so the steps that I'll walk through when I'm coaching somebody personally is I'm always going to take a look at what challenges are you facing? What obstacles are in your way? Yesterday I was coaching someone from Denver, Colorado, and I said, what challenges are you facing? What's your biggest challenge today? And I'm going to develop the strategic thinking around that challenge, because listening to the challenge is what helps me to be able to understand, okay, this is a challenge that's more mental, and this is structural. It's based on the resources of the individual situation. Some people, their challenge is delegating their time, and they just are overcommitted. They're trying to accomplish too many things, and they don't have enough resources to be able to do that. Strategic thinking is looking at that big issue, figuring out what the challenges are, and then you adjust your plan to overcome those challenges.
Thank you, Mr. Dwight. So we have another one. That is how to become a better listener, a keen observer, a more skilled thinker, and a more effective problem solver.
Oh, great question. Great question. Being able to stop and listen. I quoted Dr. Stephen Covey earlier, the author of the 7 Habits. He was a professor at Brigham Young University, and Dr. Covey would always say, seek first to understand and then be understood. And I found, because I have some friends who are hearing impaired, literally, they watch somebody's face as they're talking. They read their lips. They read their face. So much of communication is based on nonverbal communication, and stopping to really listen to what's happening around me. Being able to listen, not just with my ears, but listen with your eyes. What do you see happening? Sometimes we're not able to accomplish our Mount Everest-sized dreams because, and this is sad, but sometimes there are people around you who don't want you to accomplish greater dreams. Sometimes people don't have a support system around them of people who. So I want you to pay attention as you're listening, as you're paying attention to what's happening around you. Do you need to get some healthier people? Do you need to change the environment? Sometimes if I'll just listen, not just with my ears, what's being said, but with my eyes. If